Welcome to The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and local advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener, your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. We are in the peak of the growing season. This is when you'll really find those new shade trees. They'll put on 2-3 feet of growth if it's a big, fast-growing one. Now through fall. So it's strategic. If you know the soil is warm, the air is warm, there's humidity, there's going to be some rains sporadically. Already we're getting rumors of rain around the North Country. This is when plants really push some new growth. Now, with that being said, some things are just delayed. I was just helping a customer. They had some trumpet vine. This is a beautiful, fast-growing vine, a native, drought-hardy, xeriscape. It's fire-wise. Hummingbirds love it. I mean, every yard, if you're going to think about vines, that's one of the vines you should start with. It's got these very large red, orange to yellow flowers, really reddish colors too. There is a yellow variety. And it'll push, at least 10 feet a year. I mean, you trim it back, it just grows, and every summer you can count it to bloom from now through the end of fall. Well, it's delayed. This year it's at least 3 weeks late, and that's all because of last spring through early summer, the soil was just cool. We had so much snow, that didn't affect it. It was asleep. It was that early spring it started to bud, and then it would get cold and go, nope, I'm going to wait. I'm a summer plant. I like blooming in the summer. I'm here when the hummingbirds are here. I'm going to wait. And so it waited at least 3 weeks. By this time last year, they were in glorious bloom. You're starting to just now see the first initial buds. And that's where the season shifts back and forth. You never quite know. In the mountains of Arizona, it can be 3 weeks early, or it can be 3 weeks late, and everything in between. So they give us these averages. On average, the last frost is around Mother's Day, or for you folks in the high country, Memorial Day. That's the average. But it can be 3 weeks later than that, or 3 weeks early. You just got to be ready. That's where the gardeners within us have to kind of work with the environment and get a feel. Your gut will kind of tell you going, I can go all in. I could do this, or I can do this, but have some sheets ready just in case, or it's a little late. Why isn't this blooming? My silk tassel tree or mimosas, they're also delayed. They should be covered in pink tasseled flowers. The entire top of the tree, nothing but pink flowers. And the hummingbirds and butterflies, the swallowtails and monarchs, they love it. They aren't blooming yet. They're budded, but no flowers at all. Everything is 3 weeks delayed. So I've helped a couple customers this week at the garden center where they're bringing in photos going, listen, last year's beautiful. This year, nothing. What's going on? It's all your fault. It's the weather. It's just you didn't do anything. The plant's not, it's delayed. It's just the ground was so cool for so long, it just got a slow start. Now it will come, and it'll be just as glorious. Right now, if you've got plants that aren't budded, there aren't flower buds, you'll see the pods at the end where the flowers will erupt. If you don't see that, you should have that at least. They may not be open, they may not be in bloom. That goes for Rosa Sharon and crepe myrtles and desert willows. There's a whole series of summer-loving plants. They should be budding up nicely. If that's the case, there's one of two reasons that can happen this time of year, and only two. Well, I guess we do get into the obscure. It could be some funky disease or virus. That's like the 1% club. Could be an insect. Could have grubs or gophers or something weird. Maybe that's 5%. But the 90% of all issues come down to water or it's food. One of those two things. So either you've been watering like crazy and all that food is flushed out, and so it's literally sitting there starving. It doesn't have enough energy to form the flower buds, or it's going to be, I'm dry. I'm so dry. I'm not used to sitting here with one watering once a week, for a tablespoon of water. Just I need more moisture. And that I've been helping several customers this week with spruce trees, spruce and pine, your evergreen trees. I'm noticing that they flush their new growth. They look glorious. And now all of a sudden, just in the last 3-4 weeks, the tips on the south side especially, I'm noticing the south side, are turning brown. That is a classic indication of not enough water. Or when it was smaller, it had enough water with that drip system or however you were watering. But now that it's grown, it was a little 4, 5, 6 foot spruce tree. Now that it's 15, 20 feet, that one drip emitter just ain't quite enough. And so you got to up your game. You need to increase that water amount. Not so much the frequency. The frequency never really changes. About now, you're once a week. That's good. It's the quantity, the amount of water you're putting on when you do water is not enough for some of these spruce. And I'm seeing this indication. Now, once the monsoons come, once we get some rains, once we get, by within a month, we'll have 5 inches of rain showing up on the gauges. But that hasn't quite started yet, at least here where my gardens are, hasn't quite started. I can feel it. I can see it over there. I just haven't seen it right over my gardens. And so you'll need to supplement water those. The advice I had given the couple folks, one was a good friend. We were at Rotary. We were sharing notes. Other one was a customer coming in. I just said, listen, just buy a soaker hose. Loop it around a couple times, that tree, and water it once a month. Just supplement the drip system once a month and leave it running for half a day. And that soaker hose, this tree it was small. Now it's 20 foot tall by 12 feet wide. That one drip emitter, what's a spot about 1 foot wide, is not enough. But now you can loop a soaker hose around that. That works. You can also, I've done this where I just take the hose, no soaker hose at all, just my regular old garden hose, take it out there, and I'll just put it on a slow drip for half a day. I'll turn it on before I go to church. Just leave it running. It's just a slow drip, not full force. We're not going to use thousands of gallons. Just let it kind of quickly drizzle and let it run, let it kind of flow, and it'll saturate that more moisture underneath that root zone. And then turn it off. Just do that once a month. Supplement your drip system. If you were to sit there and do it by hand, the water's coming out so fast, it starts to run and you waste a lot of it, or your time just isn't valuable and you shouldn't be standing there for 4 hours watering a tree. Let the hose slowly run out for a bit, and that'll be a game changer for anything that looks to be stressed. I'd say big shade trees. Sycamores, I've seen that. The leaves are small. They should be the size of your hand, but they're half that size. That's obviously it's struggling to get enough moisture, and these are big plants. They need more moisture. So watch that until really the end of August. Then the pressure's off. We're starting to cool down. The days are getting shorter, and by then we've really had some moisture at that point. But now for the next few weeks, the plants are more dependent on you than ever before. I would say if your leaves are small, or it just isn't blooming, or it's just not performing the way you want, there's 2 things that you can give your plants right now as we start this front edge of this growing season, this monsoonal summer rain. That's the start of our second growing season. You can double down on flower count, on roses, and you can set the stage for unbelievable growth on your lilacs next spring. You can have more growth on those shade trees. Fertilize them right now. This is a good time to fertilize with all-purpose plant food, 744 all-purpose. Sprinkle it around granular. Just sprinkle under the drip line or the canopy line or that outer branch, the furthest branches. Don't waste any fertilizer right at the trunk. There are no feeder roots right there. Those big roots are very barky. They have no feeder roots that can pull in the moisture or pull in the food. All those smaller root hairs, they're further out the outer branches. They kind of mirror the branch structure of that plant. So focus that on that outer circle, the drip line. Secondly, if it's stressed at all, curled leaves at all, if it's damaged leaves at all, and in addition to the all-purpose, give it humic. It's humic acid, Humic, humic acid. Give it that, and it will increase the root zone. The more roots, you actually have more physical roots if you do that for them to take in the moisture. Get a double play on that. Got a lot in store for you this show. Be right back with more on The Mountain Gardener.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him every week for timely garden advice right for the gardens. Visit Ken where he can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
Hi, Waters with the plants of the week and our kaleidoscope Abelia.
The longest blooming of shrubs, late spring, the entire bush is covered with pink flowers that continue to show off all season.
A compact evergreen that is frost, drought, and heat hardy and deer proof.
This shrub shines in a kaleidoscope of multicolored foliage that sparkles all the time, all for just $34.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love to garden, they love to shop.
Some things are just better together.
July is the best time to fertilize with all-purpose plant food from Waters.
But pair the all-purpose with humic acid, and it's a 1-2 punch of garden power.
Humic acid gives your soil organic matter that helps plants' roots receive water and nutrients.
So it makes fertilizer work even better.
Like salt and pepper.
Coffee and donuts.
And hey, you and me.
Aw, thanks, Ken.
All-purpose plant food and humic acid better together, and only at Waters Garden Center.
You've been listening to Ken Lane, the Mountain Gardener. Green thumbs learned while working in the Family Garden Center. Now welcome back to the Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week and just shares what are your neighbors talking about. And there's some value by just sometimes listening in and hearing the questions and the response. And so welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you.
And a busy week at the garden. So, it's
Yeah.
crazy busy in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then in the afternoon, it kind of shuts down.
People are taking a siesta.
I think so. The heat, once it goes above like 92 or 95, for sure, people are out.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got shade fabric. The greenhouses are cooled. We've got mister systems. It's actually quite pleasant.
Oh, it is.
But people just go, I'm out. We're staying home and siesta. That's a good way to describe it.
It's hot. So those monsoons roll through on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It'll hop again.
It's hot. Spoken like a true Prescottonian. It's 92. It's hot.
It's hot.
Phoenix is going, anytime it's over 105, it might be hot.
Well, that's not even fair because they don't even venture out. They don't even think about going outside down there.
I get a cold when I go down to Phoenix. I mean, you go in the theater, they got that AC cranked up. So you're from hot. Mm-hmm. You get across the asphalt. You go to blistering cold. It's like almost, you got to take a sweater. When you go down there to
I do, because I can't stand those freezing things blowing on you.
And no matter how hot it is up here,
yeah,
this is God's country.
That's
Man,
beautiful.
It just cools off in the evening. It's so nice. It's
in the
perfect.
mornings, and when I'm up at 5, it is beautiful out, and it's quiet, and the birds are singing, and it's lovely.
The cats are catching mice, and the hawks are going back out after.
There was a huge, speaking of hawks, because our front yard is so bird friendly.
Yeah.
Bird friendly. We have the little fountain. All the little birds love it. The other day, I'm sitting out there with our little dog, and all of a sudden, I just see these little birds scatter. I mean, they just take off, and I'm like, holy cow, what's going on? And a big old falcon,
Kestrel?
hawk, it was bigger than a kestrel.
Oh, really?
It was
neat.
Huge.
Oh, I haven't seen
Came
him.
and landed in the neighbor's willow tree.
Oh.
I mean, I went and got the dog because I was afraid. I was afraid this bird was just going to pick her up and fly away. It was huge. But yeah, it's kind of, I know it's nature.
I think the hedgerow across the street, the neighbor across from us, if they're listening, it's a second home. So they're down in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And they hear all that time. I got to go knock on the door next time they're up. But I think they've got a beehive in that. You go over and I was going, what's that buzzing sound? And you could just hear the noise. And they got to have, or maybe I'll just call a beekeeper for them and just have them hauled away.
Yeah.
Folks should be aware. Mm-hmm. The bees, especially if they're new from, let's say, the Midwest or the East Coast, honeybees here in the Southwest have all been, pretty much all of them are Africanized. Mm-hmm. And so they're dangerous. I mean, they're not dangerous on flowers, onesie twosies, but when you stumble across the nest, that's when they're dangerous because they have this trigger response that when you walk by and one might bump you. Bees kind of they're very social. They let you know. They don't just randomly go attack. you've got to be totally blunderous. I mean, you got to just totally be unaware of your surroundings because they're bumping you on the chest going, hey, back off. Hey, back off. When they finally give the signal to sting, Africanized bees, honeybees, they actually, the entire nest, it triggers a response where the entire nest goes, okay, we're all out. Whereas a regular European honeybee nest, they'll just one bee will sting you, kind of go, oh, cute, yeah, go ahead, little guy, leave me alone. You don't do that with Africanized. You run for your life to the closest, anything where you can get out of their way, a car, a house, anywhere, a barn, anywhere to get out of their way, just not underwater because they'll wait for you to come. They'll wait. They're after you. So that's the difference. Always assume in Arizona
that they're Africanized.
The bees are Africanized. Always assume. I mean, pretty much most of the hives we've tested, they're Africanized. Not. I don't want to put fear into people. They're killing off the bees. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just be aware of the hive and know where they're at and give them respect.
Can you move that type of if it's been Africanized, are they movable?
Yeah. Yeah. A beekeeper will come in. We've got a list of beekeepers. They'll come and harvest them and take them, and they'll put them in a box, and they'll actually, I mean, all of the bees, the ones that are with beekeepers and the ones that are wild, they're all Africanized. You just have to assume that.
Yeah.
And the biggest place, just okay, our neighbors have one over in a big, huge shrub. Because they're not there all the time, I'm sure. Right. But the number one place you'll find beehives, whether yellow jackets or honeybees, are in your irrigation box. So just be aware.
Ooh, I was thinking grill.
Well, that could be too, but it's cool and moist on that in the ground.
Yeah.
They've got the hole right there on top of the box in the ground, and so they'll go in and make their nest. So just when you're checking your irrigation, just
be aware.
Have your guard up. I'll stick my finger right in there and pull it up. And I'm looking for bees and black widow spiders. Those are the two things. And just always be aware. I wear my gloves. It's just not don't be afraid. Just have your guard up.
I'm not going outside ever again.
I mean,
till fall.
Let's tell the Gila monster stories. You know where they like to hang out.
The Gila monster.
So rare. I mean, I've logged thousands of miles in the backcountry.
Yeah.
It's a privilege.
I've never seen one.
Privilege to see a Gila monster. Privilege to see a tarantula.
Sure.
We had a gopher snake crossing the road the other night.
Yeah.
Couldn't do a evasive maneuver. 8 foot snake
halfway
across the road.
Huge.
We just didn't want to hit him.
Right.
So some folks are so freakish about snakes, they'll gun them down. But those are the good guys.
Right.
That keep your pack rats and keep things. Anyway, we go on and on. I don't know how we got on that, but
I don't know.
We should have a question.
We should have a question. Our first question is from Jack. He has a blue spruce that he's had in the ground a couple of years. It had been looking really good. Came out of spring. It was looking rough. A lot of bare branches. Just looked bad. He thought it was a goner. Now he's looking at it, and there's a bunch of new growth coming out of the top, which makes it look kind of funny. But his question is will the whole thing come out of it? Is it worth trying to save, or do you just start over? And what happened to it?
Well, if I understand the question, so you had blue spruce, winter was rough on it, but it flushed some new growth, but only at the top. Is that what I heard? So the bottom's kind of looking rough. The top is, which is typical.
Top is pretty. Bottom looks kind of.
If the top is where you see it from your deck or your patio, and that's all you can see is the pretty part, keep it. Trim up the ugly part down below. Probably won't come out of it, so it probably will stay looking that rough, gross, mangy look. So, or if it would take a decade for it to actually look good again, you'd be better off starting over. So a lot of times you've got shrubs and things down below where you really don't see it. It doesn't matter so much. Let the top grow and be fine. Prune it up. But if it's right there in the middle of the yard and it's bringing you down, it'll be years before you get. It's not worth waiting. Come in and get another. It'd be less problematic mentally, physically, emotionally for you. If you just cut it down and plant a new one, a fresh, new, gorgeous thing. What happened was last winter was so crazy wet, so much moisture, like 200% over norm, that you had root rot. And so the plant wanted to die, but plants, they want to live when they can. So it figured out a way to flush new growth, but it only had enough energy to put growth on that top section. And so you've got this 10-foot tree with only the top 4 feet looks good. The rest of it looks terrible.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to tell you. If it's where doesn't bother you, keep it. If it bothers you, there's only one way to start over, and that's cut it down.
If it's the centerpiece of the yard,
don't keep it. Oh my gosh, it's bringing you and your neighbors down.
Nothing worse than
the neighbors are talking about you.
Well, another quick question is from Tina. She put in a beautiful big chase tree this spring. Blossoms are fading. Should she trim those off, and will it bloom again?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you got spent flowers on a shrub or perennial or flower, cut them off. Mm-hmm. It makes it look better, first of all, and then more than likely it will actually put on more flowers. So put on this extra set of energy. So fertilize it with the all-purpose plant food. Do that first, then deadhead the spent flowers, and you'll get another wave of that's for smoke tree, chase tree, vitex, desert willows, chitalpas, you name it. They'll bloom again for you.
Okay.
So absolutely clean them up and then watch them bloom again. So ours is the repeat blooming lilac, or bloomerang. Did the same thing, and now it's going to bloom again. So it's a super roses. Good questions this week, folks. Be right back with Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners.
You're listening to Ken Lane, a.k.a. the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Waters Garden Center. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain gardens. Gee, my flowers just bloom too much.
Said no one, ever. Hi, this is Ken at Waters. We had a crazy winter and everyone's ready for flowers in the garden.
Waters Flower Power is made specifically for Arizona that gives flowers that extra boost to burst into bloom.
It's an energy kick in the plants.
Get ready for roses that rule, peppers that pop, and tomatoes that triumph.
More power to the flowers with Flower Power at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Hi, Waters, with the plants of the week and our summer love, Agastache.
A perennial that happily shrugs off summer heat in waves of tubular red flowers.
Exceptional heat tolerance, this hummingbird perennial draws pollinators close into the garden.
The minty fragrance keeps javelina, deer, and rabbits away, and these huge plants are just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. For people who love summer flowers, they love to shop.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Join the conversation every week as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Now welcome back your host, Ken Lane.
I was talking to a friend, and she's got a half-acre lot out in, I think, Castle Canyon or Williamson Valley. So I forget where the home was. But basically, they have dogs, and they have this back part of the lot that just generates a lot of mud. I mean, just the dogs bring in the dirt and stuff. She's going, what can I do? Going, well, rock it over. Well, I don't want to drag that much rock. And she's a hardcore gardener, hardcore. Beautiful gardens. So I went, well, what about grass? He goes, well, I don't want to mow. I'm going, I got the solution then. Here we go. So there's some native grass mixes that you can put back there that aren't really made for mowing like a lawn. They're made to be more like a wildland meadow. And there's 2 types. We put them together. These are formulas, recipes. Gardening seed, wildflower seeds. There's recipes. So many poppies, so many gaillardias, so many echinaceas, so many mixes, and it makes this beautiful garden. We've got these recipes. Well, there's 2 recipes I created years ago. One's called Meadow Mix. It's really it's short grasses. It's blue grama grass, lots of native grasses. And they stay short, so they don't choke out the flowers that will grow up in between the wild grasses. And so there we put poppies and some other things. That's one. That's what I recommended for her. I'm going, this is perfect for you. You'll mow it once a year in the winter when it's brown. If it's got a bunch of wildflower seed, leave all the cuttings there. Just sling the seed around, and you'll have even more flowers and more grass. And it'll take that pressure from the dogs playing, peeing on the grass, that kind of stuff. It works really well. The other one is called Western native grass. This is the tall grasses, Western wheats, and it's a wild grass. It's that one I developed mainly for the scars of construction. If you've got, let's say, Williamson Valley or Paulden or Ash Fork, you've got big areas where the grader came in and just ripped your beautiful property a new one, and it just has, now you've just got mud and rocks, and you can just see the tire tracks going around. You want to revegetate that with the native stuff that's growing wild without all the weeds. No weeds, just the grasses. Then you're looking at the Western native grass. This gets up maybe above knee high, below hip high. So it's your regular, as you're driving down the road, you'll see nice grass area. It's that mixture. And so it was too tall to actually put flowers into. The taller grasses would choke out the wildflowers or the weeds for that effect. So for that, to start those things as the monsoons start, is a great time to start grasses. They'll germinate right away. But you do not want to mow these. If you're thinking, I want a low water, low maintenance lawn to mow, those are not the grasses. I've created 2 separate recipes for just lawns. I want the kids to play soccer and wrestle, and I want a little patch for Fifi to go tickle her feet on and go wee out there. I've got separate grasses for those. But these are, I just want it to be wild, and I want to mow it once a year. I want to mow it with a weed whacker. I don't even want to mow it. I want to let it go. These are the grasses you really want to go with, and it can really reduce the amount of erosion, amount of mud, without all that rock slinging, 20 tons of 3/4 inch minus crushed granite. That is painful. That works too. But if you're a gardener, it can be too sterile. You need something back there, and she wanted grass, mainly for dogs to play on and for her to look at. And so the meadow mix is what I recommended, the lower growing grass with the flowers in between. And you're coming into, here's what I did with my last patch. I took a 3/4 inch soaker hose. This is that 50-foot hose that's made of used tires, just kind of weeps. What I did is I snaked it down and I pinned it to the ground. I've actually buried it before too. And then I ran that, and wherever I saw a wet spot, those things will throw off a wet area about 3 feet on either side. That's where I sprinkled all the grass, and it worked like magic. And then I put the soaker hose on a timer and just watered, a couple times a week or something, just to take the edge off, to make sure that grass had a very deep root structure. And it stayed green till the end of the year. It was amazing. Did really, really well. But that's one way to start either a wildflower patch, just flowers, or a wild grass patch, or a wild grass with flowers patch, meadow mix. So either way, that's a little insider tip that does it. Right now, I took, for my current time lawn, I took main distribution drip line, and then I fed off. They make a soaker hose that's 1/4 inch. It's a spaghetti tubing. And I ran it just underneath the ground about every 2 feet, 18 inches or so. And then again, I did the same thing. I turned it on. Wherever the wet spot was, I put a plug of creeping thyme. And now I've got this beautiful lawn of creeping thyme, herbal creeping thyme. It's starting to bloom right now. The dogs love to play on it. It's just, I mow it once a year again. It's just a great way to have low water, low care, but high design or fashion lawn out in your gardens. You can do this, and we can help you. Be right back with Lisa Waterslane after this.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for timely garden advice right for higher elevations. Guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season. Hi, Lisa here with the Plants of the Week and our Cabernet Sauvignon grape finds.
One of the most widely recognized wine grapes, producing tasty red fruits and superior wine.
Yes, you can grow your own, and it doesn't take as many vines as you might think.
Used to arch a walkway or shade a terrace, all for under $20. The grape harvest is simply a bonus.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love to make their own wine, they love to shop. Hi, Lisa with the finds of the week and our Forester feathergrass.
Dramatic bronze flower spikes start blooming in early summer and don't stop until well into next year.
The flowers are so light and airy, it's often referred to as feathergrass.
Growing to just hip-high, this dainty grass shows off enough to make a designer statement without being invasive. All for under $30.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love really pretty grass, they love to shop. You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening is very rewarding, with a few of Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts sure to turn your thumbs even greener. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
So we've got Lisa Waters Lane back in the studio. She comes each week and just shares her top-of-mind garden thoughts. So I fill 40 minutes, you get 20 minutes. Between the two of us, we have a less boring show because the more gardeners you talk to, the more interesting it seems to get.
Yes.
More thoughts you get, more things. Mm-hmm. Gardening is not the same. It's
no.
different every season.
Mm-hmm. That
Welcome
is true.
back. And
every person has a different opinion, which is good. Makes it fun. They all have different plants that they love. They have different ways they garden. Yeah. I enjoy talking to gardeners.
I do too. I never get bored with it. When I get stressed out, I've had too many accountant, the IRS called. I deal with that, and then I go, I'm just stressed out. I go talk out on the floor, and I talk to gardeners, and I trim trees, and play with the plants, and it's just fun. It's decompressing. Yeah. It's less stress. Getting your hands dirty, just in the soil.
Didn't you post something on Facebook or Twitter? It was talking about just being out, touching the earth, touching dirt, touching plants. Makes a huge difference. Was it on Alzheimer's?
There's science on that.
Or something
like
that?
There's science. Yeah. They're actually measuring this where 20 minutes a day with your hands in the soil or laying on a beach or just touching soil is therapeutic. There's also studies that say just being out in nature, if your clock is all off and you're just not getting good sleep and if you get too much screen time, go camping. Just being on the natural cycles of morning and evening and roasting a marshmallow and just
resets your rhythms.
It resets your clock. Yeah, there's very much science to that. They've measured it. They've done the brain scans, and it's very interesting. Gardening's therapeutic and good for you.
I agree.
We should all garden more. As a garden center owner should say, we should just all garden more.
There is so much truth to that. People need to get away from their computer screens, their TVs, their cell phones, because all you get is fed negative. So-and-so is horrible, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, just walk away from it all and go outside.
We are new Alexa owners. We've got the Amazon Prime deal. We bought several dots and things around. So we're talking to we're fully plugged in. I'm ready for the brain implants. Yeah. So I talked to Alexa. I said, Alexa, tell me the news. It's going through the news cycle. And when I got done with Trump's tweets this week and the Democrats' response and the whole inane thing of going, oh my gosh, these people just need to get out more and stop the rhetoric.
They need to garden more.
I don't care where you're at. Both sides. You just got to get outside more and watch a hummingbird or something. Take a breath. Play with a butterfly. Really? Instagram your grandkids, but stop tweeting out stupidness and then responding to stupidness. Come on.
And that's the problem. You live in too small a world. You got to get out.
This is not a political statement at all. It's not an Alexa statement, plus or minus, not security or just, I scratch my head going, it's therapeutic out in the gardens.
Yeah, I agree. Well, speaking of that, I was cruising through the garden center just this morning. Cruising through and looking at stuff because it literally changes every day. You think you know where everything is and what's blooming and what's not blooming. You walk through and you're like, what is that? And that's what I did. I was walking through the perennial house, and we have those hardy hibiscus down there.
Right.
The Stardust one, which is a really lush pink color. I'm walking by it, and I'm like, holy cow. It puts a bloom on it that's 10 inches.
Yeah,
easily.
way bigger than your hand. Way bigger.
It is gorgeous.
It looks like a tropical Hawaiian hibiscus.
Right.
That's the Mishuto series, right?
Correct.
So hibiscus Mishutos. There's several colors we carry. Super unusual plant, but a shrub that gets up maybe hip high. But the flowers every summer it puts on, again, like this 10-inch flower, typical, long stamens coming out of it. Hummingbirds love it. It's an awe-inspiring flower.
You got to come by just to see them. I mean, it was beautiful. Now, the plant itself, Goes completely dormant in the wintertime. You
Yeah,
even
it's true
forget where you
perennial.
had it. But wow, you got to come see that.
Yeah.
So those really caught my eye as I was walking by them. And then we had some other hibiscus, which is more the Rose of Sharon, more the traditional hibiscus. And that one was Tahiti was blooming. And Tahiti is a really dark pink, but it even has a darker pink center.
Oh, neat.
And nice
look, I
big
missed that.
flower. It's a good 3-4 inch flower
Yeah.
on it. Stunning. Very, very stunning.
It doesn't have as large a flower,
No.
but it has 10 times, maybe 20 times the volume or quantity of flower. It makes up for it in sheer quantity. I mean, literally,
definitely.
we've had Rose of Sharons that fell over
Right.
because it just had too many flowers on it. It was crazy.
And so pretty. You get the singles and you get some that are double flower. Nice thing about them, too, is they come in a tree form.
Yes.
If you wanted to grow one in a real pretty container on your patio, it would do fine in that, wouldn't
A
it?
little tree up to maybe 10 feet tall.
Right.
That blooms every summer. You just count on it. I also noticed in the front by the parking lot, these must be new in, you had a tree form of trumpet vine.
Oh, yeah.
Those decorative pots.
It's summer jazz.
That's
something
neat.
Jazz. It is really cool.
Yeah.
Comes in the yellow and the orange color.
Where'd you find those? That's a way to show them off up front. I mean, those will be gone by the weekend. Just,
It's my
they're
secret.
so pretty.
Can't tell you where I got them. The crepe myrtle are, boy, they are truly coming into their own right now. And crepe myrtles, boy, the colors on them are just so dynamic. I've been walking through the yard. They've been in bud for a long time, and
Yeah.
you start thinking, these are never going to open. But they are really popping now. We have a coral magic one that's they're just really starting to pop, and they are so pretty.
Let me guess the color. Coral.
Coral.
Yeah.
But it's, I hate these guys that give these plants
I know,
color
it's
names.
ridiculous.
I'm like, it's not really coral. It's more of a dark pink, but I think they get bored.
Yeah.
so they come up with names. We do have a ruffled red one that really does have more of a red blossom to it. A lot of times they call red and it's more pink or orange, but this one's a real pretty
Crepe
red.
myrtles are one of those few plants that loves the mountains. Mm-hmm. You got to get the right variety. So there's hardier varieties, kind of like rosemary, same thing. There's some that are mountain hardy, and we specialize in those. But there's no other shrub that has that color. The flower is relatively unimpressive. The leaves flower part, but the color of the flower is awe-inspiring, like fluorescent color. No flower has that kind of brightness to it.
Right.
And so you can look at it across the landscape and go, whoa, what is that? Hummingbirds love them. You'll see they bring in nature for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. And some of them, it used to be you just always had the green leaf with the pretty flower. Now you're getting kind of a red and green on the leaves. There's one that has a really dark burgundy leaf on it, but the blossom is like a bright pink. And just the contrast is stunning on those.
I noticed the green crepe myrtles bloom just before the purple leafed.
Yeah.
In our backyard.
Yeah.
Just we've got several.
Would you think it'd be different?
I don't know.
You think
Maybe,
the dark-
it's closer to the north wall, so maybe it's just more cool. The soil's
No,
cooler.
they do that in the yard.
Do they?
Too.
Okay, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Have one of each.
There you go. You can
enjoy.
enjoy it a lot longer, right? So you got to check those out because there's too many to go through and give you all the names because there's probably at least 8 or 10 out there. The other one that we have that is just starting to bloom out there is Clethra, which is I think it's also called hummingbird plant sometimes. Yeah. It's a little bit more of a shade plant or filtered light plant. And it's the first year that I can remember us carrying them.
We've had them before.
Have we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I
Just so
really,
specialized. That,
yeah. Anyways, they have one called Vanilla Spice that actually has a very sweet, spicy smell to it. Just that really spicy, like Mexican vanilla smell to it. It's really nice. I think I'm trying to figure out, I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm trying to figure out in our yard where I can put one.
There's room for that.
Because I want to try it.
The Salt Castle trees down. I've got a sage, the autumn sage, is struggling. It's just
underneath
too much shade now.
Yeah.
It'd be perfect. I'd dig that sucker up in a heartbeat, put it in there, and just transplant it. It'll be better.
And the hummingbirds and the other pollinators absolutely love this plant.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, if you're trying to attract more of those pollinators into your yard, definitely one to try.
So what's the name of that name variety again?
It's Vanilla Spice Clethora.
Yeah.
And then there's another one called Hummingbird Sweet,
Yeah.
which has more of a sweet smell to
It's like
it.
an aphrodisiac to hummingbirds and to butterflies,
There you
literally.
go.
So another one that goes with that is St. John's wort. Those are
yeah.
kind of companions. St. John's will take a little more sun,
Right.
more shade. So perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Great garden tips of what's blooming right now that you can plant in your yard. Be right back with Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners.
Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Podcast the show, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook and Instagram at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Hi, Waters with the plant of the week and our red cobweb hens and chicks.
Tiny rosettes are covered with crazy cobweb-like hairs, then open and spread to make a dense, succulent ground cover.
This drought-loving perennial flushes red in the spring with cactus pink flowers in the summer.
Perfect for planting in rock gardens, super attractive in containers, and just $14.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love crazy new succulents, they love to shop. Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our Goshiki Holly.
Goshiki translates from Japanese as holly with 5 colors. Its new leaves emerge red, then turn green.
The entire top of this holly is draped in colors of cream, white, gray, yellow, and green.
This evergreen makes the perfect accent, hedge, or evergreen container for its all-round good looks.
A really nice plant that shines through winter is just $39.
Waters Garden Center, where people who love Japanese gardens, they love to shop.
Welcome to the Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane. Gardening in the mountains is different. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now for better advice that works locally, welcome your host, Ken Lane.
This is the time I started the show with summer bloomers are a little late. Well, that's the summer shrubs, mainly vines and shrubs I'm finding folks are concerned about. I also noticed that with my perennials, they've just really started to take off. So the Shasta daisies are finally in bloom. Normally they're in bloom back in June. Well, now that's 3 weeks late, and now they're in full color. This is a plant that loves the summer, and those plants are programmed not by daylight, not by the daytime temperature, but really by nighttime temperature and the soil temperature. When the soil is warm enough, it goes, okay, that's it, we're going. And it needs so many days of really above 50 degrees before that soil starts to percolate and warm up. And then all of a sudden they go, okay, that's it, time to go. Boom. And they start blooming. This is a trumpet vine. Gaillardia is one that's a little delayed. Echinaceas or coneflower, that's what your grandparents called it. But echinaceas, they come in the traditionally orange color, yellows. We've got some new varieties that are bright reds, purples. There's a lot of varieties. This is one that loves the mountains, and it loves the summer, but it doesn't like cool springs, and so it's delayed. Mine have finally started blooming. Now I'm deadheading those. This is another insider tip for some of those, especially summer perennials. Once that flower comes up and opens, it'll last for maybe a week or so. Then it will go to seed, and the plant will be programmed, focus on making seed. If you take that old flower and pinch it off, or deadhead it, or I'll take my pruners or scissors or just my pocket knife, I'll cut it right off. Now that plant cannot focus on forming seeds. It goes, oh no, I lost my flower. Something ate my flower. Something happened. I have to now produce another flower right away. So I've got time to produce more seed. You can trick plants into blooming over and over and over again for you just by deadheading, taking the dead flower or the spent flower and pruning that off. Really easy trick. It works for a lot of perennials. So this week I cut back all of my sages. So sage has been blooming for, months. It's crazy. It's a plant that javelina don't bother, deer don't eat, rabbits don't care about, but it's got this purple spiky flower about a foot off the ground that just covers. It's a wild flower. It's called meadow sage. Actually, there's a lot of sages out there, but this meadow sage is one of my favorites. And it's been in bloom. This week, I took my hedgers of all things, my shrub hedgers. I've got a 40-volt Ryobi trimmer, And I just trimmed off all those old flowers. I fertilized them with the all-purpose plant food, and they will be back in bloom probably by the end of the month. I mean, already you're starting seeing new buds forming. So I just took off or deadheaded all the spent flowers. So it's focused on not spreading throughout the yard more, creating seed and just spilling over and becoming like a wildflower, but focus on what you got and just focus on reblooming again for me. Why don't you do that? I got mine to bloom 3 times last year. You can do that with daisies. You can do that with echinaceas and gaillardias and penstemons and Jupiter's beard or ceanothus. There's a whole series of plants. Basically, if it blooms in the summer, you can deadhead that and it will bloom again for you throughout the fall season. You can probably have flowers through October, really. And so that's a real easy trick. The key is take the spent flower off and make sure when you do that, it's got enough food to produce the next flower. It takes a lot of energy. It's like building up muscles. Someone bodybuilding can't just live on a water diet. They need to have that protein to really get the muscle bulk up. Well, flowers are kind of the same way. They're going to need that protein, or we call it nitrogen and phosphorus. So that all-purpose 744 food is what you need. The cottonseed meal in that formula, that recipe, is a game changer for anything that blooms. I mean, it really brings the flowers out. For things that fruit trees. So it's an incredible food for fruit trees. Lawns. The other ingredient is bird guano, bird poop. Bird poop is very hot. And so lawns love that. You spread that out there and it will have the thickest, luscious grass, whether it's a native grass or a mowing grass. It'll blow your socks off going, whoa, I've never seen anything like that before. It'll be so thick, no weed would ever dare try to come in and compete. You won't have dandelions. It'll choke out all the other weeds. So it's just a really good general purpose food for the mountains of Arizona. It works. It's made specifically for up here, up in God's country, up at the higher elevations. It could work in other places, especially in the Southwest, but it's really formulated for here. And I've been tweaking that recipe for, 20 years. And this is what I've kind of settled down on, go, wow, I can't find anything that works better than this. And so that's one thing to do. So deadhead, fertilize. That will get you more flowers. 1, 2, something else. Some of my tomatoes, I've already picked tomatoes off of. Some are forming fruits pretty fast. I've got this one bush that it's stubborn. In fact, I'm tempted to rip it out going, if you don't just do that. You don't just grow foliage and not produce tomatoes. What I'm doing for that one is I'm every other week. For this one, I'll probably hit it once a week until it starts fruiting. So I'm hitting it with blooming blossom set. And so tomatoes, I've got one pepper that's doing this. Yeah, I think it was hit by that hail. I planted it, and then I got hail back in, 1st of May. It's just delayed. It's now coming on, but I'm hitting that one until it starts forming fruits. And so if you've got some fruits, you should have watermelons on your plants. You should have cucumbers forming. You should be picking squash. If you've got something that just is not producing for you in that vegetable garden, hit it with blossom set. It's a quart size, ready to use. And don't focus on the flowers. There aren't enough flowers. There aren't any flowers on some of these. You're focused on the foliage. You want to spray the leaves. And what happens is these plants will actively grow right now. They're growing so fast. They forget to slow down and form flowers. They forget to fruit. Literally, they just forget, oh yeah, that's right, I'm a tomato plant. I should put tomatoes on. They're just focused on foliage. More canes, more vines, more. Spritz that thing every week until it starts forming flowers. What it does, it slows that plant down. So it forces it to kind of take a hiccup, going, oh, wait, hold up. Why don't we rethink this, and why don't you focus on flowers now? And it forces it to set flowers, so blossom set. Now, here's when you go to your garden center, you're going to see 8-ounce bottles, 16-ounce bottles. You don't want any of those. You want a 32-ounce. You want the biggest one you can find. Buy it in gallon size if you can. You're going to spray the entire plant with this blossom set. And it's made for more than just tomatoes. It's for anything that is not forming a fruit for you right now. spritz that plant down with the blossom set. That's why you want the larger size. And within 2 weeks, by the end of this month, you're going to be going, whoa, Ken was right. Oh my gosh, look at all the fruit that's forming now. So if it's just not, if it's stubborn, many times the reason that's the case, you've got too much nutrients, too much nitrogen, specifically too many manures in your soil. So it's picking up all this nitrogen, growing, and it's just focused on growing new foliage. Nitrogen, or that first number in the formula, is for leaf growth. It's got too much of that. So that blossom set will force it to slow down, so it starts focusing on the fruiting piece. But by now, I've got watermelons that are the size of probably grapefruits. My pumpkins, I pinched off the first pumpkins because I'm growing giant pumpkins. So I always want about the second fruit. I'll let it produce again. So I've got more foliage. So I get a bigger pumpkin that way. If you really want to talk giant pumpkins, I'm kind of an expert. I could tell you that. That's a sidebar. Not everyone likes growing giant pumpkins. So I won't waste the words over the airways. We can help you out with that as well. But you should be picking cucumbers. You should have beans coming on. If not, watch for your food and then fertilize or spritz it with blossom set, and it will up your game. And by the end of the month, you should be having fruit. Maybe not harvesting, but you should be noticing fruit on those plants. And that'll up your game with that. Got more in store. Be right back with the Mountain Gardener after this.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to the Mountain Gardener.
Hi, Waters with the plants of the week and our Gold Flame honeysuckle.
Wonderfully fragrant. These blooms are in full color right now and will stay that way until the first frost of October.
These pink and gold blooms are irresistible to hummingbirds and butterflies alike.
Excellent as a quick ground cover, but robust enough to climb vertical structures and fences, all for under $37.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love blooming vines, they love to shop.
Wondering why my garden looks amazing? Well, that's personal. The personal garden shopper service at Waters Garden Center, that is. Before talking with my personal shopper, I had no idea which plants would be best for me. But now my garden is bursting with flowers and buzzing with hummingbirds. Just go to watersgardencenter.com, click on Shop, and choose Personal Garden Shopper. A Waters Garden expert will pick the perfect plants for you, personally. The Personal Garden Shopper, only at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You've tuned in to the Mountain Gardener with local garden expert Ken Lane. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
So we just loaded up, had some new deliveries of fresh plants. Lots of summer blooming perennials. These are the plants that come back every year. Remember, perennial and permanent both start with P. Annuals are those things that bloom their hearts out for the year, and then when winter comes, typically they die out. They can reseed, that kind of stuff, but they don't come back from the same root. They would come back from a seed. That's an annual. A perennial can seed, and they come back. That same plant will go hibernate during winter, will come back again from the roots next spring. So it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and seeds more and more and more. And most of your wildflowers, they are perennials. Your perennial gardens, you really want to anchor your gardens with perennials and then sprinkle some annuals in amongst it, because perennials will typically bloom 6-8 weeks maybe, and then they're just green. So they don't bloom the entire season. That's what an annual does. But if you can intermix some, so typically we're planting some spring blooming perennials, some summer blooming perennials, then we'll hit them with the fall blooming perennials like asters and mums. So you got to think through the design more. We're going to go over all of that and the best of the summer bloomers, because we just got some in. They're looking fabulous. So the yarrow, it's a native blooming perennial flower. And they're glorious right now, just glorious in multiple colors, way more than just the traditional native yellow. We've got paprikas and reds and pinks. We're showing those off. We just got some new rose trees in. They're in full bloom. They're beautiful. They're standing up about head high. This weekend is a garden class on how to take care of and get the most of your roses. Next weekend is perennials. Here are the top perennials and why you want to plant this one instead of this one and how to blend them together. So it's easy to grow roses this Saturday at 9:30. So that was this weekend. Next weekend, we've got July 27th at 9:30 again. We've got over 103 guests saying they're going to be there. Now, that's saying you're going to be there or interested and showing up, two different things. On Facebook, 103 guests say they're going to be there. This is it's going to be popular. Come early, bring a chair maybe, bring a donut and a cup of coffee for the guest speaker, and I might treat you more favorably. I'll take your questions over someone else's. Anyway, they're free. They're made to help you be a better gardener, but you're into the season right now. You can plant things now, and they just take and grow fast. This is the time when you really want to think through, either push the things you have so they grow faster, or it's time to plant or strategically put things in their filler to have them fill in for you. Really good for hedges. If you're going to have a privacy screen for evergreens, say junipers and cypress and cedars and pines and spruce, this is your time. You can really get them to root out fast. A new shade tree, if it's just hot on your back patio, you planted a little tiny tree, fertilize the thing. Force the thing to grow. Give it that all-purpose plant food or plant a new tree. They grow so fast right now because the soil is warm, the air is warm, and we're going to get some humidity's going up. Plants just grow fast. This is your time. It's not like Phoenix. This is hard for you flatlanders, Phoenix and Tucson, Palm Spring folks to wrap your brain around. Go, no, we basically went inside and we hibernated for like 2 months until winter came when it was warm again. We're not in Phoenix. It's not hot like that. I think it's 85 degrees out right now. Plants love that. I mean, they think it's the greatest thing ever. And so they grow fast. And so now's your time. Let's say, I wish I had time to go over summer pruning. I've been pruning things up, trying to get my plants back under control. They've grown so much that I've had to nip and tuck and shape them where I want them to go. Maybe next week I'll cover that. We'll go into summer pruning, how to keep things pruned. Went over deadheading, but over shaping your grapes, shaping your shrubs, shaping your fruit trees. How do you do that? There's an art to it. Anyway, throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center. We love helping fans of the show. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our pink volcano phlox.
Just when spring flowers are fading, these beauties revive and show off.
Your grandmother only dreamed of growing a pretty pink phlox this fine.
Each flower cluster could make a bridal bouquet all by itself.
This new volcano series is erupting with flowers used to accent entries and fountains, all for $15.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. For people who love eruptions of pink flowers, they love to shop. Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our lavender chiffon hibiscus.
This hardy variety is one of the longest blooming, most prolific shrubs, showing off massive 4-inch lavender flowers all summer long.
This stately bush likes to show off, and all for $39.
But wait, there's more. These pretty shrubs come back again next year with even more stunning beauty.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love stunning hibiscus, they love to shop. If you want a more fruitful garden, increase success in your landscape that just feels better, then tune in every week to The Mountain Gardener. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.